it's very easy to pinpoint the exact, turning point, the inspirational turning point in my life. I always love games. I grew up with Space Invaders, Saxon, Jumpman, and I really liked them as an entertainment. But it was when I played King's Quest for the first time that I realized that I wanted to make a game like that. I mean, that experience of exploring this virtual land and solving mysteries and puzzles and this quest by the king. I loved books at the time, and King's Quest for me was, it felt like an interactive book. So from that moment, I knew that someday I wanted to do things like that. Eventually, I played many other Sierra games, Space Quest, of course. It's actually my favorite game series. LucasArts. But then, because I'm specializing in horror, some very influential titles for me when it comes to games have been, I would say, Alone in the Dark, Dark Seed, The Seventh Guest, The Dark Eye, always adventure games.
Wow, I mean that's quite a lineup right there. Is overall, would you say that there was one classic game overall that you would say is your favorite?
That's an extremely difficult question. I would have to say, when it comes to adventure games, it's very difficult to pick just one. I mean, it's impossible. Probably, if you held at gunpoint, I would have to say Space Quest 3, maybe. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow I have another answer. But when it comes to non-adventure games, it's easier. I would have to say Fallout. It's the game I have replayed the most besides adventure games. I'm a big fan of Wasteland as well.
Is there any game that really just got you afraid? Because it's like a lot of games nowadays, they try to get you with cheap tricks, and that was one of the things that was interesting about your game. We're going to talk about in just a moment. H.P. Lovecraft, the case of Charles Dexter Warren, was that you talked about not just going for the cheap scare. Was there a game that you played, especially growing up, that was just generally scary as you were playing it, that you were just like, oh my goodness, this is really getting to me?
Yes. Well, there's cheap scares sometimes work when they are, very far and in between, and they happen at the exact moment, and you don't repeat them. For me, a memorable moment in horror games occurred in Alone in the Dark, and it does qualify as a cheap scare, but because no other game had done it before, I still hold it as perhaps the scariest moment in my experience with games. And it involved a room. You enter this room, the door shuts, behind you, shuts close behind you, and then when you're about to leave, this zombie enters the room. It was just perfectly staged. Besides that one, I would have to say The Dark Eye is the game that has really disturbed me. There's a moment, it's an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's tales, and at one point in the game, the protagonist starts to hallucinate, and you see teeth popping on the screen. It's a very disturbing moment in the game. That would qualify as really scary.